the options for selecting references and creating different round sets and the round user interface. So when we start with a round, first question is what is a round or a fillet? So a round is a feature that we use to break sharp edges inside the model, so it can also be used to add material. So if we look at the select an inside edge of a component, it can add material to the part, or it will also remove material to the part. The selection methods that we use inside Creo is similar to your Microsoft Windows selection options. If you want to select multiple items, you hold down the control key and you pick all the different edges that you want to create the round on. If you want to select multiple items, same as in Windows Explorer, if you select first item, you hold in shift, the last item, it will select everything in between. We've got the same option inside Creo as well, so we could use the shift for that. And we also have the loop selection option where you can pick on an edge. If you move your mouse over the surface that's next to that edge, it will then give you the option to select all the edges of that surface that's connected to that edge that you've selected. We also have a more advanced option, the intent selection. That is where if you go over a feature, so let's say this little section, this extrude that I've got on the side, if you go over the side edges of that extrude and you right click and let go of the mouse, if you cycle through the options, one of the options that will pop up is the intent. If you select that option, it will then say your intention is to create rounds on all the edges of that extrude, so all the side edges. The same applies if you go to the top surface of this extrude. If I right click and select the intent option for that edge, it will then pick up that this whole section is an extrude, and it will pick up all the edges just for that top surface. So you can do multiple selections where you could say all the side surfaces, all the top, all the side edges, the top edges, and all the edges at the base. So within 3 clicks you can basically create rounds for all those edges on that extrude. Then what we can also do, what's quite handy, is create multiple round sets. So that's almost like having multiple round features inside one feature. So if you go and hold in control and you pick all the edges, it creates rounds on all those edges, and they will all be the same size because they're the same selection. If you let go of the control and you pick the next edge, that will create a new set. So inside the interface you'll see there's a new set 2 option, and for the references, the edge that you pick, you can then have a new size for that one. So this example, I've got a set at the top for those 2 edges, there's another set for those 3 edges, and then set 3 is this single item. So all 3 of them can be different sizes, all the different sets in one, and it's all in one feature. Then the selection method, so you, as a default, you can pick all the edges, but we also have an option where you can pick surfaces to create the round. So you might think, why would you want to do that if you can just pick the edge? It's a single click, where surface is 2 clicks. You might get a scenario where you've got lots of edges to pick. So if you have something like this model, so if you go and click all those edges, it will be many edges that you have to go and select. Instead of that, what you can do is just pick this surface, and that will then allow you to create the round on all those edges within 2 clicks. So let's go now have a look of how we do this inside Creo. What we have here is a simple model, and to start the round feature I can go to the top. There's the round command. I click on that, or you can press the R key on the keyboard. It shows my dashboard for the feature. At the top left it shows me I'm creating a round. Then I've got an icon for the sets or the transitions. So we covered transitions in one of the later round videos. The different type of rounds that you can create, so that's also a separate video, and then some of the settings that you can set. So with the sets active, you'll have the flyout for the sets, where you can create multiple sets and also change all the options, the references that you select, and then the size. So for the first step, we want to create a single item. So the same as in Windows Explorer, if you want to select something, you click on the edge, it selects it. In Windows Explorer, if you want to select multiple files, you hold in control and you select the multiple items. For rounds it's exactly the same, you hold in control, and if we select multiple edges, those become part of the same selection, and all those edges will then have or the rounds will have the same size. So if I click on the drag handle and drag it to change it, or I can change it on the screen and change the value, or I can change it in the sets window or at the top. So there's multiple locations where you can change the value. You'll see it will update all of them because they are part of the same set or group. If I let go of the control key and click on a new edge, that will start a new set or a new group selection. You'll see the previous one, the dimension will then disappear. It's now activated set to, I've selected one reference, and that's the new size. So again, if I hold in control, I can select another one. There's now two edges, that's that size. So if I again go and change the size, that will update only for those two edges. If I want to go back and change the previous set, I can simply click on it to activate that set again, or you can click on the set in the pop-up window as well, and you can then go and change the sizes. So that way you can go and create as many sets as you want and rounds on the model. If you want to complete that, you can click on OK, and there's my feature in my model tree. If I want to change that, if I click on the feature, you have the edit option, which allows you to change the dimension, or edit definition, which allows you to go back into the feature and change the references. If I use the edit option, it shows me the dimensions, and I can simply click on it and drag it. So that was the first set with the 3 references, and that is the second set with the 2 references. So that way I can change it, click outside the model, and it regenerates, and I've made my changes. If I want to go back and change the references, I use the edit definition, and maybe I want to unselect this edge. So to unselect an item, you can right click and remove it from the dialog box, or just hold in control again and pick on it again to unselect that edge. If I want to select that edge as part of the different set, I can activate that set and pick that edge, and that round is now part, or that edge is now part of that round set. If I want to delete the sets, I can delete the set as a complete item, or I can also go into the set and right click and select just one reference, or remove all the references in that set as well. So I can easily do that. If I then want to use the next option, where I want to go and select the edges from start to an endpoint, so the same as in Windows Explorer, if you select the first one, you can hold in shift and then select the last one, and that will pick up all the edges. So I'll go and click on the first edge. If I hold in shift and move my mouse to the edge on the other side, and I right click once and let go, what you'll see is it then picks up all the edges from the start to the end point, and I can left click if I want to accept that. But it might be that you actually wanted to select the edges on the inside. So what you can do is right click once and let go, and what it will do is it then gives you the next available option. If that's the option you want to use, you can then left click and it will select all those edges from the start to the end point, the same way as you would do in Windows Explorer. If I remove that, just to do that again, if I pick the edge, what I can also do, if I hold in the shift key, instead of going from start to end, if I hold in the shift and move my mouse over the surface next to that edge, what that will then give you is the option to loop the entire surface. So if I then left click, it selects all the edges of that surface in that set. So that's another quick way of selecting all the edges. And then the last option, if we go and undo that, is to go and say, if I go and move my mouse over the edge and I right click and right click again, what you'll see is it'll cycle through all the possible edges, and then it'll get to the point where it shows the intent. So the intention was to add all the edges to that second feature in the model. If I click that, it will then add all those edges, or the same way if I go to over this edge and right click, picks up the intent is all the outside edges, and it can also do that for that specific feature. So these are all the selection options for creating rounds inside Creo. If we go to a different model, so in this one, if I want to start the round tool, what you can also do to start a round, you don't have to go to the icon, you can simply click on an edge as well, and in the pop-up window you'll then have the round icon, and you can go and hold in control and pick all the edges, but it might be that you've got a lot of edges that you need to select in a scenario like this, and that's not ideal. So instead of doing that, what you can do is simply pick the surface on the one side and the surface on the other side, holding control. That will then go and find all the edges between the two surfaces and then create a round on all those edges. And changing it is exactly the same. You can still create more sets just by selecting edges, but you can only have two surfaces in one set if you use this method. So if I complete that, and now let's say we want to go and make a change to this. If I pick on one of those cutouts that was patterned and we change the spacing to something smaller, that will update. And if I then change the quantity from 10 to 12, you'll see that it's added the other cuts, but it's also then automatically added the rounds in all those sections. So this is just a basic introduction to selection tools inside the round feature. Thanks for joining us for this video. Please join us for further tutorials on rounds. Thank you.